What is up there, everybody? Citrus Sports here for yet another video, and today we have our top 5 takeaways from week 0, and I am also including the Thursday week 1 games in this takeaway video. I wasn't able to record the video earlier in the week, and so I decided to include the week 1 Thursday games because that gives us more to talk about, and due to my scheduling. So let's take a look at the top 5 takeaways for week 1, and the first one is obvious. College football is back. It's just great to see players out there playing the game, fans in the stands, sold out stadiums, insane crowds. It is so awesome to see the sport back. I just can't tell you how excited I am to see college football back, particularly the games we saw on Thursday night. Those were incredible. We got some really good matchups so far in week 0 and week 1. So far, we have seen Nebraska Northwestern was a good game. We have seen Penn State Purdue was a really good game, and what I thought the best game so far that we've seen this season, Pittsburgh West Virginia. That was a sold out crowd with a ton of fans there, lots of crowd noise, great football. We saw a lot of running the ball, we saw some passing, we've seen a lot of mistakes made, which we'll get to here in just a second, but it's just great to see college football back. My second takeaway is that the Big Ten is very strong in 2022. So far, the Big Ten teams that we have seen played have played very well, or if they lost in competitive games to usually some sort of a mistake. Now, we're going to get to a certain team that made a lot of mistakes here in just a second, but the Northwestern Nebraska game was really good. The Purdue Penn State game was really good. I'm going to do my top 25 literally right after this video, and you'll see Penn State is in my top 25. And they're almost in my top 10 because they look really good. The bounce back season is definitely coming back for them, which is actually my third point. But Minnesota and Illinois blew out their opponents that they played. And so far, the 6 Big Ten teams that we have seen play so far have looked really good. Tonight we're going to see Michigan State play. But so far, the Big Ten looks to be the best conference that we have seen play. Now, we haven't really seen many SEC teams play. We've just seen Vanderbilt. And we're going to see how the rest of the SEC looks. But right now, the Big Ten looks very, very good in 2022. If there was a conference that I had to say right now looks kind of disappointing, it'd be the Big 12. Oklahoma State nearly lost their game in what turned out to be a shootout. And there was another team, Big 12 team. Oh, yeah, West Virginia. They lost to Pitt due to a lot of mistakes. And so it's really going to be interesting to see how the Big 12 performs in 2022. I know a lot of people thought the Big 12 might be down a little bit this year. And it's definitely looking like the Big 12 is going to be inferior to the Big 10 for sure. But we'll have to see how the rest of the season looks. So far, Week 1 and Week 0 have been a very good showing for the Big 10. My third point here is that Penn State will bounce back. This has been something that has been debated during the offseason. Will Penn State bounce back? I thought they would in my top 25 for week 0. I think I had them at 18th, and you'll see I put them up even higher with my week 1 top 25. But Penn State performed very well against Purdue. We saw that tight end room really, really look good. James Franklin said this was the best tight end room he's had his entire time at Penn State, and that definitely showed. Strange performed very well, and there were other tight ends who caught balls and did really well at pass protection and just blocking. And this Penn State team looks really, really good. Particularly trench play, a typical Penn State thing that they tend to be very good at, was outstanding. Purdue was just not able to get a whole lot of pressure onto Sam Clifford, which gave him a lot of time in the pocket to pass. And vice versa, Penn State's D-line did pressure Aiden O'Connell a lot, forced him to make some mistakes, and sacked him a bunch of times during the game. So this is definitely one of the things where Penn State, if they are able to play football this way, they will be a top 10 team this season. And we saw the potential from the last year, but injuries really hurt them. If injuries don't hurt them this season, they will probably finish with 9 or 10 wins, just like they could have last season, although injuries definitely derailed them last year. And so I definitely think Penn State will bounce back this season, and we will see a top 15 to top 10 Penn State team this year. My fourth takeaway from week 0 and the first couple games of week 1 is that Nebraska and West Virginia beat themselves. Both the teams looked more talented than the teams that they played. Nebraska definitely more talented than Northwestern, and West Virginia looked more talented than Pittsburgh. Ultimately, the game came down to coaching. Northwestern and Pittsburgh are just coached better than Nebraska and West Virginia, and unfortunately that is the reality of the situation. And also, another thing you'll tend to see early on in the season is the teams that tend to have good trench play and can run the ball effectively are going to be very successful early on in the season. Pittsburgh and Northwestern play very similar style football, and they both were very effective in executing that style of football. We also saw Illinois do something similar as well, and they are 38-6 blowout win over Wyoming. And you're just seeing teams that can just play simple, fundamental football perform really well all in the season. Now, we'll have to see how these two teams perform later on in the season, but I was both impressed by their performances and disappointed by my Nebraska Cornhuskers letting me down. Once again, we are now 0-7 in the last 7 games, all one-score losses. Nebraska now has the NCAA record for most consecutive one-score losses at 7. This Nebraska team is breaking the record books, but not for the reasons they should be. And West Virginia, they lose a one-score game to Pittsburgh. It was an outstanding game. It was my favorite game of the week so far that we've seen week 1. It was a very good football game, but ultimately West Virginia had a couple of costly mistakes that cost them the game. Their offensive line was able to create holes for their running backs, but unfortunately they struggled on the edges, and JT Daniels got pressured quite a bit during the game, and unfortunately getting pressured caused him to make some mistakes that cost West Virginia the game. It doesn't help that the wide receiver core for West Virginia, for whatever reason, does not want to catch balls. I mean, you're a receiver, a tight end. Your job is to catch the football, not to let the ball pass straight through your hands into the Pittsburgh defender. That cost West Virginia at least 14 points right there. And so West Virginia's mental mistakes have cost them, just like it did with Nebraska. You don't go for an onside kick when you're up 11 points. Just don't. In addition, Scott Frost has yet to be successful in a single onside kick. I believe he's tried 8 in his career, all of which have failed. So just don't do onside kicks. Just avoid it in Nebraska. Teams are making mistakes, and we'll probably see this again with my week 1 analysis with some more teams making mistakes. But Nebraska and West Virginia definitely beat themselves. Northwestern did not beat Nebraska. Nebraska beat Nebraska, and West Virginia also beat West Virginia. It just so happened that they played a really good Pitt team as well. And when you do that, you're going to lose games. My final takeaway is that Florida State, North Carolina, and Vanderbilt are surprise teams. I did not see this coming, at least for Vanderbilt and Florida State. If you saw my week 0 top 25, I was like, watch out for North Carolina. They could be really good. Florida State, I was like, I don't know. But Vanderbilt, I did not see that coming at all. I don't think anyone saw Vanderbilt being a top 25 team coming at all. But yet they beat Hawaii convincingly. This is the first time in something like 50 years that Vanderbilt has scored 60 points in a game. Their offensive and defensive line both looked dominant. They had a great running game. Their quarterback, I don't know the name of him because it's Vanderbilt. No one cares. Their quarterback's able to pass the ball very effectively. He made good reads during the game, and I was really impressed by Vanderbilt. They could start the season 4-0. Just think about that. A 4-0 Vanderbilt team. Who would have seen that coming? Nobody. But Vanderbilt had a really impressive start to the season, and that's not really anything I was expecting. Those are my top 5 takeaways from week 0 and the first couple games of week 1. What are your top 5 takeaways? Put them down in the comments below. And with that being said, I want to thank you all so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. God bless. Go Big Red.